Lava in Beat 1 in 100.
Hello and welcome to Tea Time from a rather chilly weather of New Delhi. I'm here at the JP Greens Golf and Country Club in Greater Noida, and indeed this weather does not impact our game of golf today. Now, India has been picked to be one of the fastest growing smartphone markets in Asia Pacific. Now, what is really leading to these figures? We've got the co-founder and director of Lava International joining us on Tea Time today to discuss this.
On the show this week, we have Vishal Sehgal, co-founder and director, Lava International.
We have a very simple framework, which basically is that the first thing you fix is a differentiator. And that differentiator, the simple definition of a differentiator is what does the customer buy you for?
And in news, Arun Atwal wins the Dubai Open and Om Prakash Chauhan wins the Tata Open.
Vishal, welcome to Tea Time.
Thank you.
Lovely to have you on the show. You're not feeling cold at all, despite this chilly breeze?
I'm a Delhi guy here.
Yeah, but it's a chilly breeze. I mean, I look like I'm the only one feeling cold here.
No, it's okay. I think this is okay weather for us.
So thank you so much for having us here at your home course, JP Greens Golf and Country Club.
Having you around.
Let's start off with Lava International now. You started the company in 2009.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
I've been in a job prior to that. So I was working with Airtel as the CEO for the Rajasthan Circle.
Right.
And there are 4 of us.
Right.
4 friends. So we got together and said, okay, let's start some business together.
Right.
And very obviously, when you start doing that, you figure out what are things that you know well. So this mobile business was a business that we knew well.
By the virtue of being with Airtel.
One of my partners knew the electronic side well.
Right.
I knew the network side well.
Right.
So, okay, let's get together and do this.
Right.
At the right time also. I think that's a time when India was booming. And the customers, every person really wanted a phone.
Right.
Today you look around and you see 70-80% of Indians carrying a mobile phone.
Correct.
So I think to that extent that's how it worked out.
Any kind of seed capital, where did it come from?
If you have the right idea,
right,
then really capital is never really an issue. Really? Obviously you need to have your own capital. But once your idea is there and once you can show some execution of your idea, there are a lot of people who get in and are willing to participate from a capital perspective.
Well, interesting. On that note, I'll tee off and we continue discussing the smartphone market particularly with you.
Yes, ma'am. All yours.
Talk about the smartphone market in much detail now. International Data Corporation just released a research report recently that says that international shipments of smartphones are likely to see a decline in the year 2015. What does your outlook remain?
Well, I think when we look at India, I don't see any slowing down of this acceleration. In fact, if at all, we actually see a certain amount of critical mass gathering now in rural India for smartphones also.
Right.
And once that takes off, we believe that we've not really seen the fastest growth still of the smartphone market. So I don't think India is slowing down in any case in the next 2 or 3 years.
But internationally, the shipments are likely to slow down?
That's because different countries have different levels of penetration on smartphones.
Right.
And data networks. So India is sort of still on the early end of the curve.
Right.
So we see actually at least the next 3 years to be actually a completely roller coaster ride as far as...
Yeah, because quite ironically, India is one of the fastest selling smartphone markets in Asia Pacific, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, absolutely. And it will continue to be so for, I think, for at least 3 more years.
Now, how much of a conversion rate are you seeing within India from feature phones to smartphones particularly? I believe it's also somewhere replacing your computer screen with phablets, like phone and tablet mix. You've got a new term called phablets as well now.
First of all, feature phones per se themselves are not slowing down either.
Right.
So at least at this stage, when we look at data, we don't see the feature phone market dropping per se. But at the same time, a larger and larger percentage of customers, surely in the big cities, but as we go along, it's even in the smaller cities and maybe even villages, are now starting looking at the smartphone as their phone of choice.
Right.
So we believe that feature phones will remain robust for at least one more year. And
is it?
Yeah, that's right. So I think, and then going forward, post that, you will start seeing maybe feature phones start doing a bit of a decline, and the smartphone then actually just completely shooting through the roof. I don't think it will become zero, because there are a certain segment of customers who, despite the fact that they would have a smartphone available and they understand everything, some people just want a simpler phone, right? So that 20-25% will remain even 5 years from now.
Sure.
You look at the US data also, you see that still 20-25% of shipments, even now after all the data networks and everything,
you've got feature phones.
Still are feature phones.
Yeah, but how are you affording your smartphones to be so cheap? I mean, without compromising on quality, on your software, on your hardware. What are you doing to make them affordable, or rather, in better words, but attractively priced as such?
See, finally, anything that you want to get for the customer, there's technology available. So I think it's a smart choice of technology, which I think is most critical. So when you go about designing a phone for a certain segment of customers at a certain price point, you have to ensure that you rightly design it. And when we look at design, we have a very simple framework, which basically is that the first thing you fix is a differentiator. And that differentiator, the simple definition of a differentiator is what does the customer buy you for, right? Then you fix your hygiene elements. The hygiene elements are those things which customers could reject you for. So you must still have them, because if you don't have them, the customer could reject you for it.
Sure.
And the third element is a blind spot. Now, this is where I think many companies go wrong. There are certain things customers don't care for. A blind spot is something that the customer just doesn't care for. Even if you're putting it in the phone, it's like an over-design. And therefore, the customer is not really interested in paying the price for it.
Interesting. Vishal, now will emerging markets see a drop in cell phone pricing further? Now, the question really on everyone's mind is how lower can these smartphone prices still go? I think the average selling price globally right now stands at about $135 thereabouts, and I think most experts are pegging that it'll hit about $102 to $104 thereabouts by 2018 as well. Are you in agreement, and how low do you think it can go further from here on?
No, I think smartphones will start pretty much as low as it goes. So we completely believe that there would be a smartphone, forget $100, there will be a smartphone $50 also in the go forward future, maybe less than 3 years from now. There is already technology emerging to do that.
Right.
But at the same time, different customers will buy different types of smartphones. For example, the Zolo brand, we do not sell a smartphone less than $100. So we peg ourselves. So at a certain bare minimum experience, we believe that a sub $100 smartphone could end up falling short on customers.
Right.
So Zolo is very centric on the experience that customers get from the phone.
Right.
We make our choices, and we don't sell phones below $100 by and large.
Right.
But yes, technology is pulling prices of pretty much every single component which goes into a smartphone downwards. I think that thing continues.
All right. On that note, let's take a quick break right here on Tea Time. We stay in conversation with Vishal Sehgal and discuss the smartphone market even on the other side of the break. Take a break. I'll see you on the other side.
Arbitrage is just one of it, which anyway will happen. So I think to that extent, I think India, once it becomes a destination for manufacturing, it will obviously start at the lower end of the value chain in terms of manufacturing.
Thank you for staying with us on Tea Time, and welcome back. Now the question really is, where does India stand vis-a-vis the rest of the world as a smartphone manufacturer per se? I mean, you've got...
I think yeah, you're right. To that extent, that's an area which I believe will see massive development in the coming years.
Right. With more players like you walking in.
China has been a factory to the world, but I think that's going to change.
China's slowing down now, right?
Sorry?
China is slowing down, right?
China is slowing down because the various parts of the ecosystem which lend themselves to manufacturing are now becoming adverse in China. So whether it is, blue-collar workers, salary levels, all of them are shooting to the roof.
Sure.
So we believe that manufacturing will move into India, and actually we're going to be at the forefront of it. We're already in the stages of getting into a manufacturing setup.
Are we being able to provide some sort of a cost arbitrage vis-a-vis the rest of the world in terms of manufacturing facilities?
See, cost arbitrage is just one of it, which anyway will happen. So I think to that extent, I think India, once it becomes a destination for manufacturing, it will obviously start at the lower end of the value chain in terms of manufacturing. But slowly it will climb up to higher levels. So I think a nutshell answer to that is that yes, manufacturing in India is going to take off in a very big way. We're preparing ourselves for it. We're betting on it, in fact. So to say.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I think so. So hopefully, I think 3 years from now, every single phone sold in India hopefully can be made in India.
Okay, so as far as market share is concerned, you've got Samsung, you've got Micromax, you've got Lava, which is yours, you've got Carbon, and you've got Motorola existing in India. Now, your share in the pie chart is quite low compared to the rest of the competitors as well. Why is it that Lava is lagging behind in terms of market share, or do you think this will pick up in the few years to come?
I think one, we've not sort of, when you say lagging behind, I think among at least the Indian players, I think a clear number 2 now.
Right.
We are doing upwards of 2 million shipments every month, and that pretty much puts us firmly on the number 2 slot. And I think ours is a very step-by-step approach. We never really got ever very worried about being sort of the highest volume player overnight. So that's something which is not our culture. Our culture is we must stabilize at every level before we move to the next level.
Sure, and you're new.
Yeah, so from between the Lava brand and the Zolo brand, we must make sure that whatever happens sustainably. It doesn't just, the ups and downs are what we're most scared about.
Right.
The step-by-step approach works for us. We're already number 2. I think it's just a matter of time before we become number 1 in India at least.
Where do you see the maximum amount of competition coming from? Which brand would you call your closest competitor right now in the market?
So see, out there, we look out into the market, we see very, very strong generic players like Samsung. We see strong generic players like Sony, right? Each of these organizations have been in the industry for decades, so to say. So to that extent, clearly, when we look out there and look into the future, surely one day these are organizations that we must face. At various points of time, we will define competition differently. But at the same time, longer term, it is these organizations which are great organizations otherwise who we must fight. And these are the people we must win against.
And what about Micromax and what about Carbon? Do you see them as closest competitors to you at the moment?
See, the way we work is very different from the way these organizations work.
How?
For example, ours is a very product-led approach.
Right.
Zolo, and Lava, both brands, for example, at a company level, we were the first company to start hiring engineers way back in 2009.
Right.
Today, 400 out of 1,500 people are engineers.
Right.
I think put together, all the Indian brands put together would have less than half the number of engineers. So bulk of the other companies that you're talking about, the Indian brands, are brands which are largely doing trading. That's never been our approach. Our approach is that we must hold product very close to our heart. We're also one of the only companies in India who invest in software. We have our own user interface, Hive, which has been launched 3 months back. That user interface will become a full-fledged software suite, and it's going forward also become a full-fledged e-commerce platform.
Right.
So these are the type of things we do, largely because we believe that if we have to win in this war in the long run, product is centric to our approach. We are not just a pure advertising organization. We are not just a pure distribution organization.
Absolutely.
We are at the center, at the core, first and foremost, a product organization. And that's what will make us win.
All right, time now for us to play a chip shot and we continue talking. Come. Beautiful. Alright, so Vishal, now continuing our conversation, do you see consumer trends, preferences changing, and there's a huge paradigm shift in the way the consumers are consuming smartphones in this country as well, because now 10% of the market is a smartphone market in India right now. So that kind of reflects a huge shift in customer preferences as well.
That's true. I think this obviously has a segment-wise connotation.
Right.
In certain segments of the market,
right,
we already see consumers getting maturer.
Right.
So you already see people, when I'm saying maturity, what I'm really talking about is that when it comes to hardware, we used to earlier see people largely hankering after specs. But now we see people moving from specs to experience.
Oh, really?
So you could have an 8-megapixel camera and you could have an 8-megapixel camera. But the experience of the two could be chalk and cheese. So on paper it looked like same camera.
Right.
But they would have widely different imaging experiences on the smartphone. So we see that already emerging, especially in our Zolo brand.
They're more discerning
we already
now,
see people, so we're already very discerning set of customers out there who value experience far more than just specs. And that's a sign of maturity. I think that's one part. I think that's sort of working. And it's all in the step in the right direction. Also, in time, we will see people move from just a pure hardware-based decision making to a hardware plus software-based decision making.
Oh, really?
So people will look for unique experiences even from software. Possibly people will not just look for pure stock Android experience. They will start looking for customized experiences. We launched Hive specifically for that reason, so that such customers who are evolved now to wanting a customized software experience should be able to step out into the Hive domain.
Tell me a little more about Hive now. It's your own baby, of course. So tell me, how's the experience of the interface of Hive different from other interfaces that we're seeing? And how difficult was it to come up with your own interface really for a phone?
Is first and foremost, Hive is a platform. So it's a place where customers can engage with the company. Customers can also engage with other customers, right? So if you go to Hive Connect is a place where if I am a Hive customer and you're a Hive customer, we can talk to each other. We can discuss what we are deriving from the phone. We can discuss what more we want from the phone. And at the same platform, the company also sits. So the company can also watch this conversation actually plan a design which is a superior design. So one of the, therefore, fallouts or one of the advantages customers get from Hive is that every 15 days, we give customers a software update, OTA. And that software update allows him to experience new experiences or improved experiences from the product. So this is something customers value a lot. Second, I think Hive also has a place called Hive Edge. Edge is a place where customers can change at a deeper level their entire user interface. So they can integrate more themes. So at the end of it, it makes a phone far more exciting. It's actually a step in the direction of saying that smartphone is not just about hardware. There's lots of things that software can do to your smartphone.
Right.
And that's what Hive's going to be all about.
We're going to take a break right here, and on the other side, we will stay in conversation with Vishal Sehgal, discuss about Hive, and also discuss about how online distribution is also enhancing sales for his company. Stay with us.
We see online purely playing on price, and that worries us because we are not a price player.
Right.
So therefore, we directly per se will not actually participate in the online journey.
Only on Zoom.
Thank you for staying with us on Tea Time, and welcome back. Now, we are seeing that 90% of penetration for internet, especially in India, is happening through smartphones now, and this is the latest research saying this. How has smartphone now become a facilitator for internet consumption as well? Are we saying goodbye to computers soon in the tier 3 and the rural segment where it is expensive for those people to buy computers now?
No, I think so. I think that the average Indian, especially in semi-urban rural India, will actually get his first computer experience from his smartphone.
Right, from the screen.
Because it works from many angles. India is a wired deficit country, so there's not much of wired infrastructure when it comes to internet access in rural India. And wireless will do the job there. And we're already seeing that. We're already seeing semi-urban rural areas. I mean, our Lava brand actually does extremely well in those areas and sells tons of smartphones out there.
Right.
And we believe this is like a trend. It's not just it's not a fad. It's something that will happen. So yes, smartphone will become the device of choice for internet access because it will give actually a superior computer experience going forward.
And how is online distribution now enhancing sales for your company right now? And which are the markets that you're seeing online distribution really enhance sales?
See, per se, we are not a very online-focused organization.
Do you sell online at all?
We actually directly don't sell online at all.
Some of our retailers, think that if you made a foray into it, or the retailers made a foray?
Some of our retailers do sell online because all the online companies are also marketplaces where retailers can go register themselves and sell. From our standpoint, what's very critical to us is our partnerships with our distributors and retailers.
Right.
And we have to ensure them that there is stability of price out there. And for that, even when retailers will sell online, which we don't directly, we have to make sure that they sell at a stable price. What we do not want is a disturbance of price because that disturbs the profitability of our partners.
What we've noticed with most smartphone makers is that there has been an enhanced sale and distribution through online retail as well. So is there a specific reason why you've stayed away from online distribution right now?
The specific reason is that today we see online purely playing on price. And that worries us because we are not a price player.
Right.
So therefore we directly per se will not actually participate in the online journey till we see that online has moved into a stable price scenario.
Right.
So that's specifically the reason why we don't participate heavily in the online space right now, because that disturbs our partnership with our partners out there.
Absolutely. Back to Hive now. We left off talking about Hive. How are you planning to make Hive a e-commerce platform? How does that benefit a company like Lava International really?
See, what really happens is that once customers get used to and get loyal towards a particular user interface, customers will want to then start transacting more and more of the digital needs.
Right.
When I'm saying digital, so for example, Hive will never be a physical product e-commerce platform.
Right.
For example, we will not be selling, let's say, for example, we will not be selling...
it won't be a Snapdeal or a Flipkart.
That's right, correct, absolutely. So I think what we will really be looking forward to is selling things like, we believe in the future, customers will start consuming more and more digital products like games, like music, like movies, right? All this digital content which can be transferred to the customer over there and doesn't require a couriering, right? That is something which interests us a lot. And we believe once Hive establishes itself as a user interface of choice by customers, it's a great platform for us to be able to leverage the relationship with the customer and carry that into a commercial transaction.
That's really interesting actually. Let's finish our game because I think it started pouring a little bit. Yeah. So we finish and we continue talking.
Please.
Come.
I think you're first.
Let's focus on the regulatory framework in this country. The government is not really playing a very large role to aid manufacturers like you, from what I understand. What is going wrong right now? And have you entered in any kind of a dialogue with the government?
Yeah, I think the government shown all the intentions, first of all.
Right.
But I think intention not going to be enough.
Right.
And moving manufacturing in a large way to India will require a lot of government regulations, a lot of government policy framework, a lot of government incentives.
No, that doesn't exist at the moment.
I think the present government is discussing it all, and I think already the Prime Minister and the ministers are already talking all the right things. I think for a company like us, we obviously are looking for now those intentions to convert into action. We are parallelly working full steam ahead.
Right.
We believe that it is per se completely in line with what India should be planning.
Correct.
And therefore it sort of perfectly fits into not only our strategy but also our Indianness, so to say. For sure.
So where are the manufacturers in India struggling at this point of time? Where does the problem really lie for manufacturers like you really?
I think it's largely about, first and foremost, I think it's about getting land which is relatively closer to urban centers. So I think those are the things that we are engaged in right now. But it's actually still an integrated approach.
Right.
There's no one area.
Right.
So I think intention is there. I think it just needs to be converting into policy now.
Okay, interesting. Now let's focus on golf now. You play JP Greens in Golf Resort here in Greater Noida, and you're a member here as well. How long have you been pursuing this game?
No, I've been at golf actually for far longer than it's almost 7-8 years now.
Really?
But I've been playing very intermittently. I think even now we end up playing only once a month or twice a month. Much less than what we would like to. I would like to sort of.
Your partners also play with you?
One of them does.
Right.
And I at least to that extent, it's actually a great place to catch up and also a great place to think a little little more out of the box and think a little more clearly, uncluttered from what you do day to day. So those are the things that's why I love golf.
Golf helps you with all of that, really.
Oh, 100%. I think golf. I think it's a great game. Ever since I've started playing it, it's almost like a passion.
Right. And you have your own 4-ball who you go out with and play
that is
regularly, right? What about golf players now? Who do you think in India has the maximum amount of promise to perform well internationally?
No, I think Indians there are so many very good Indian golfers now. There is an Irfan Lahiri. There is obviously Milkha Singh.
Jeev Milkha Singh.
Right. So there are many of these guys who are coming up. The great part is that we now, for the first time when we see a golf tournament, an international golf tournament, we still see Indian names coming around.
Absolutely,
you do. And that's something which is absolutely wonderful to see. Earlier days it used to be all either the Americans or the Scottish guys or the English guys.
Right. All right. Thank you so much for taking time out, Vishal. Really amazing talking to you here today.
Thank you so much.
With that, it's a wrap from me, Chaiti Narula and Vishal Sehgal on Tea Time. I'm going to see you same place, same time next week again. Until then, as cliched as I may always sound, enjoy the flight of a good drive and may the sport be with you.